If you're not taking advantage of business credit, I think it's a huge disservice to you and your business. Imagine getting access to 100 grand, 200 grand of 0% interest capital for a year. How many more deals you can do with that type of capital?
When you found out about this, you're like, dude, okay, I can access all this capital. What did you do with it?
I had several stores operating at the same time, producing a ridiculous amount of revenue. And I only was able to do that because...
Welcome back to the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez, COO of 5, 7 to 8 figure businesses with Ryan Pineda. Today, I have somebody who's helped 3,000 people get access to hundreds of thousands of dollars in business credit. So I'm really excited to talk about that. He's an extreme sports enthusiast. He's jumping out of planes, looks jacked. So without further ado, man, Jack, how you doing?
What's up, Javi?
Yeah,
it's
dude.
good, man. Good to be here. Appreciate the invitation. I'm pumped. We're here at WealthCon right now in Vegas. It's good to be here. It's my first event and I'm just excited.
Yeah, man. And what's one of the funnest things about being out here are we set up these studios at the event. And so it's always fun to bring in some cool guests. Like I didn't even know you're going to be here and now we're on the pod. So man, how do I get hundreds of thousands of dollars in business credit?
So really for any American, it's quite easy. All you need to do is have a social security number, have an LLC or some kind of corporation. And then it's just understanding how to optimize your credit, making yourself look attractive to the banks, and then understanding how to apply. But really for all Americans, like if you're not taking advantage of business credit and the amazing credit products that the American banking system offers, I think it's a huge disservice to you and your business. So really it's just optimizing your profile. And it's very easy to do if you know exactly what to do. But the hard part is, or the hard thing is they don't teach this in school. You can study business at Harvard. You can go study at really good schools across the country, and they don't teach anything about credit. They don't teach anything about tax and credit and really fitness. Basically, some of the most amazing things in life, no one teaches you up front. You have to be proactive on this type of education. So a few years ago, and this was, I was six to 8 years into entrepreneurship.
Wow.
I didn't even know about business credit. Someone told me, and they said, or what I learned is you can get approved for business cards at 0% interest for 9 to 18 months. And these business credit cards don't report to your personal credit profile, which means it doesn't affect your personal credit profile. And so it completely blew my mind that you can get free money from the banks for 1 to 2 years and it doesn't affect your credit profile in a negative way whatsoever, unless you default on the debt. Then it can negatively affect you. But I just knew that if I didn't know this, like being an entrepreneur for so many years, that there has to be millions and millions of people that also have no idea. And like I studied business at University of Washington and I was like deep into business. And I was funding businesses with my hard-earned cash, with an equity partner, with a high interest business loan. I did a family loan as well.
Wow. And
then this type of credit product to start and scale businesses just absolutely blew my mind. So I became fascinated. I cracked the code. And then, like you said, now I'm teaching about 3,000 people right now.
Nice. So if I have no business at all, like, can I still take advantage of this?
Absolutely great question. And the answer is yes. So the most important thing, again, is your personal credit profile. And then you just need to have some sort of business entity. Like if you don't have one, you can just go file one with the Secretary of State, create an entity. Congrats, Javi. You're now a business owner. You have an LLC and you're a business owner. It's helpful if your LLC or your entity has age on it. Like over 6 months definitely helps. Over 2 years of age will certainly help as well. But you can still get a lot of funding. I'm talking about 50 to 150,000 on these business cards on brand new businesses.
Interesting.
And so if you do have revenue on the business, really where that revenue is going to help is with the bank. Like if you're banking at Chase and Chase sees that revenue on the business, that revenue is going to help at Chase because they can see it. And with these business credit cards, there's no income verification in most scenarios. So they're not looking at tax returns. They're just looking at your personal credit profile. They're looking at the age of the business, the type of the business, and the relationship you have with that bank. And so I always recommend to people, if your business banking should be at a bank that has the top credit products, like Chase, like American Express, or actually Chase and Bank of America, because they're very relationship based. So to answer your question again, like you do not need to have an aged business. You don't even need to have a business that's cash flowing. You just need to have some sort of entity. So you have an EIN and you can use that on the application.
So Chase, Bank of America, where else should I be banking specifically? Just to
US
build
Bank, I would put at number 3. Truist, if you're in a state that is Truist, I'd kind of put them up there as well.
Okay.
But 100%, any business owner and any person in general, I recommend to bank at Chase. The relationship at Chase goes a super, super long way. They have the best personal credit cards, the best business credit cards, and specifically the best 0% interest business credit cards and ones that will lend the highest limits.
Got it.
$50,000, $75,000 up to $150,000 you can get at Chase before they look at any sort of financials.
Interesting. And with the way like interest rates have shifted and all that kind of stuff, has that affected people's availability to this credit, or is it pretty stable?
It's pretty stable. And so what that affects in terms of the 0% introductory offers, and for anyone that doesn't know about these 0% cards, because they see the interest rates rising, people are like, how is this even possible? 0%, the rates are rising, but these are promotional offers. So on these cards, and not all cards, but they'll do promotional offers 0% for between 9 and 18 months. After that promotional period, then the interest rates goes up to the normal credit card rate, which is high, like 20 to 25%. So that's where it's affecting people is the non 0% cards or the 0% cards that are expired and they can't pay it down in time, then it's more expensive.
Got it. So you're not really seeing like a decrease in approvals and stuff like that, or?
Only in Q4 because lending in Q4 in general is more difficult. But now we're back as Q1 and things are ripping.
Nice.
But in general, like over the last year, lending has been super, super good still.
Love it. So, I mean, obviously the possibilities are endless when you get access to that much capital, but
you can do so many more things. If you're in real estate, you're doing flips. Like imagine getting access to $100,000, $200,000 of 0% interest capital for a year. How many more deals you can do with that type of capital? For the average person, having savings of 20 grand in the bank account, it's a pretty hard thing to do. And so when you can figure out how to do this type of thing and get the money from the banks, leverage other people's money and do that for your deals or your business, it becomes so much easier.
Love it. So what did you, when you found out about this, you're like, dude, okay, I can access all this capital. What did you do with it?
E-commerce.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
I was drop shipping on Amazon. I was drop shipping on Walmart. I had several stores operating at the same time, producing a ridiculous amount of revenue. And I only was able to do that because I had access to money. Before that, this was so I was doing Airbnb arbitrage in Bali, Indonesia, invested a good amount of money in these villas up front. COVID smacked and then people couldn't visit these villas. So I, completely lost. And I was like, I need to do something else. And this was at the same time I was figuring out business credit and also like learning about e-commerce. And I was like, okay, cool, I can get access to all this money, dump it into these e-commerce stores and scale them aggressively. And I was not, if I didn't have the money, I could not have scaled nearly as aggressively. So that was huge. Got it.
Okay. And so now today, obviously you're coaching. You mentioned you have a couple other businesses. So what else are you doing right now?
I have 3 different offers in the funding space or that I'm a part of. I do the coaching where my program's called credit stacking. I teach people this skill of funding. So how to optimize their credit, how to get access to this type of funding, which I think is one of the most important things as an entrepreneur is to get access to money when you need. I'm also a partner on a done for you funding offer with my brother. And so that's more of a done for you model.
So what does that look like? Am I just like, I come to you, you taking care of my entire credit profile, all that, and then poof, I have money?
Yeah. Instead of learning the skill and doing the things yourself, it's more so a lot of the things are just their hand is held through the entire process.
Got it.
Applications are submitted on their behalf, things like that. So it's much less time intensive on that person.
What's the team size on that? How big's your operation right now?
12.
12?
Yeah.
Okay. And what does that break down to, like employee wise?
We have two sales reps. We have 2 virtual assistants that does optimization, works on people's credit, et cetera. A few virtual assistants that do the funding applications, things like that. And a few Americans that help on the support as well.
Got it. What's been the biggest challenge, like managing these VAs and then also having is everyone remote besides you and your brother?
Everyone's remote.
Okay. Got it.
Honestly, well, at first managing VAs, it's difficult without an SOP.
Yep.
And this conversation will lead into the third offer that I'm a part of. But I've put a lot of effort into building super intricate SOPs and hundreds of templates. And so when you have a good SOP and you can train your employees on, when you're building an SOP, and you know this better than anyone, it's how can you put your creative thoughts onto a document, aka an SOP, standard operating procedure.
Yep. And
when you can do that, then you can have employees make decisions and operate like you would. And so when I was in the business doing certain things, I would think, okay, how do I document this task, put it in an SOP so I can train an employee on how to make this decision or operate like this, like I'm doing, and I don't want to be doing it anymore.
Sure.
So I was making scalable decisions. So I got out of the business as soon as possible. So it was hard to manage VAs if you don't have an SOP. But if you have an SOP, it becomes very, very easy. And so I put so much early focus on building these SOPs, and that became a lot easier. And so that actually leads to the third offer that I'm involved with. And that's, I've realized that I've built such an amazing system for people in the funding space, where now I'm doing back-end consulting, where I'll go and build this whole system for them, almost like a white label, almost like a franchise type setup.
Yeah.
We'll pay X amount of money. We'll come in, we'll build these systems for them on close, and give them all the templates, give them all the SOPs, train their team on our system that we build them. And
nice.
It's almost like a business in a box.
Yeah, I love that. And going through the franchisee model, like, do you have some clients already, or is this something that
we have a few?
Okay, nice.
We're kind of tweaking the offer right now to see what's gonna stick the best, what the right price point, the right.
And so, do you just kick it off to them essentially? So you're like, hey, here's your business, go do it, or like, do you have ongoing support? Like, what's that been like?
We're trying to figure that out right now.
Yeah,
we have someone who white labeled the service a year ago, and that's great. And I wish we thought about actually scaling that offer then, but now we're like, okay, this is actually a huge value add, and there's a place in the market for it. But we're still tweaking it out, but we're on earlier stages.
Yeah, because I feel like the next challenge would be figuring out how to like continuously support these people, because I feel like they're always gonna have questions and issues like franchisees do. So have you thought about that or not yet?
Have certainly thought about that. And then we put in Slack support channels.
Oh, that's smart.
And basically it's gonna be quite easy, because you'll love this one. I think you'll resonate a lot with it. It's like I think the sooner you can remove yourself from the business, the weeds of it, the faster it's actually going to succeed. Because as me, we're doing a million different things. We can't focus on the weeds. And when you can hire and train someone to focus on like one or two specific tasks, if done right, they will be better at those tasks than you ever were.
For sure.
And so like the VAs that I train, they are so much better at the system that I created than me, because they're just focusing on the one thing while I'm focusing on these other business growth strategies.
100%. And hopefully if you're doing a good job at hiring, then those people are like more predisposed to those things too. They're more analytical, they're more whatever, right? Because typically people like yourself who are entrepreneurs, they're big picture, they're visionary types, and they aren't necessarily excited about getting in the weeds and like doing an SOP and doing the same things over and over again. But there are people out there who are fulfilled by that. You know what I mean? So I think that's huge. I definitely agree. So like part of the presentation that I'm doing today is exactly that. It's like, hey, entrepreneurs need to figure out what's the highest and best use of their time. So they're 20% of their effort that is like actually moving the business forward. All the 80%, the other 80% is just crap. That's like BS that you're not really needing to work on. And so how do you just double down and do more of that 20%? Because that's what's actually the most valuable use of your time. And the example that I always use is Ryan and his house flipping business. Back in the day, the only thing that he would do is just go on appointments. Like he would just go close deals, because that was the best thing that he could possibly have done. Then in 2019, 2020 rolls around. He's like, bro, I am getting off of these appointments. I'm hopping on YouTube, which at the time, it seems like a crazy thought for all of his employees and everybody who's working at the company. They're like, no, like we're going to lose money. And like Ryan isn't the Ryan you know today. There's no following, nothing. He's like, I'm just going to do all this and not go on any more appointments.
Wow.
So, but he realized that his 20%, that was the highest and best use of his time, changed. He's like, now I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go. And obviously it worked out. But most entrepreneurs eventually, like especially solopreneurs, they hire a VA or they hire an assistant or whoever, and then they build a shoddy SOP, like you mentioned. And then they're like, dude, they're doing it wrong. They're doing it incorrectly. I need to go step back into the business. And then they never are able to graduate from that thing because it's too painful. So you got to set it up right, for sure.
You got to set it up right. And it's very hard, but I think to put as much focus on building that foundation and those SOPs and that structure is so important. And that's really something that took me a long time to figure out, because my dad has always been an entrepreneur my whole life, but he had a software programming service, and basically he's still a one-man team. It's literally just him doing the same thing all the time. And like he bought himself a good amount of geographic and time freedom, which was always incredible to see and super inspiring. But he never delegated anything to any other people. Even like the house project, he doesn't hire people. It's like, dude, just leverage other people's time. And so I didn't see that. I had to figure it out, and I learned quite late. But I think another thing, people have a hard time letting go of responsibility. Sometimes you just gotta, take that risk and prepare them, put the structure and foundation in place, and then take the risk and
for sure
see what they're about.
Love it. So what's it like working with your brother? Because I know a lot of people like have issues with family members and stuff like that. Like, tell me about that. Yeah,
I mean, I love it. We have no issues. We're super like-minded, very similar interests, and we've done several businesses together. He's basically been involved with almost every one of my businesses to some capacity. Some a 50-50 partners, some just as a contractor, some doing sales, etc. But I just trust him with everything, and he trusts me with everything. And there's nothing we would ever do to break each other's trust. And so, and I think also with a brother, like when you see siblings fight, like they'll get over that fight super quick.
Of course.
They're like, da-da-da-da-da, and then like 10 minutes later, they'll be like chilling. And that's my brother and I. And so I think it's harder to do that with other people. If you get in a fight with someone else, it's harder to like bounce back so quick.
I agree.
So that aspect is cool.
Nice. And then is he your younger brother, older brother?
Younger, very close though.
Oh, there we go.
1 year apart.
Okay, sweet. That's so cool. And then what is the goal for this year?
In terms of
like just life, like where, like it's the beginning of the year. So I just like to think about, all these goals and stuff. So everyone that I've had on lately, I'm like, where do you want to be by the end of 2024?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some big financial goals. A lot of the focus is on that new third offer, the back-end consulting offer. And I think, what I've been doing, and I also think, or what I'll say is what I've been doing is there's been stepping stones. So first I was doing the coaching, and then now I've been involved with the Done For You model as well. And then that kind of led me to this third offer, et cetera. So it's been like stepping stones, et cetera. But now most focus is on that back-end consulting company. But I want to have dozens of clients by the end of the year. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I think we're super confident in our system. So it's really putting energy on that, and it's higher ticket. And I think for most people, they don't charge enough for their service, or they don't add enough value in their service to then charge a premium. And for most products, it costs a similar amount to get a client paying $2K than it does to get a client paying $10K. So you got to figure out how to add value to your product and charge a lot more money for it. And now I have a super high ticket offer. So it's really to focus on that. And then on the personal side, I love traveling. I've been to 41 countries. I want to get after it and go experience more of the world. I traveled a lot in 2023. And so I'm actually trying to say no to trips a lot more.
There we go.
But I'll definitely, I like the good rhythm of working super hard for 2 months, super strict routine, gym, diet, grinding every day. I love working. If I'm not working, I get kind of anxious. I love it so much. Yeah. But I do like working super hard for 2 months and then going on like a 2 to 3 week trip.
Love that.
And then coming back, doing it again and doing it like that. I do a lot of solo skydiving. You mentioned at the beginning of the show. I'm trying to progress at that. A lot of people don't know it's a sport. Like there's maneuvers you get better at. You can do transitions in the sky.
Interesting.
You get more comfortable with groups of people at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like a full on sport. And you train in the wind tunnel for it to do these transitions. And I'm going to Venezuela in February to do the training in the wind tunnel because it's the least expensive one in the world. And you want to do like 10 hours at a time of training.
Oh, that's cool.
And then one of my big life goals is to do skydives over this spot in Venezuela called Los Roques. And it looks like these Maldives type islands.
Interesting.
But it's in Venezuela.
Yeah.
And
why there? Like, why is that the spot?
It just looks so cool.
Yeah.
It looks so cool. And I also love that it's kind of Venezuela. It's kind of like, a little bit sketchy, but if you're with the right people, it's a good experience. And I've been once before.
Do you still get nervous skydiving?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. But I love it.
It doesn't go away?
No, it doesn't go away. Because I'll do like six jumps in a day. So
wow.
That first jump, I'm like definitely super nervous. But and Will Smith has a video talking about this. It's like all the fear is built up right before you jump. And then once you jump, then it goes away. Same with like speaking on stage.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, before you're speaking on stage, you're like,
you're hyped
nervous.
up.
I get super nervous. But once you get on stage, it kind of goes away.
Yeah. The longer it takes, or the longer you go on, the less that fear is. So what's the average fall time? Like how long are you up in sky?
60 seconds.
Okay.
So it's pretty quick.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. But those are, some of my goals.
There we go. And what do you feel like is going to block those goals? If you can really nail it down.
I think the only thing that blocks most goals is limiting beliefs and just not having discipline and the consistency, which I do think I'm quite disciplined and very consistent. So I think it's just the limiting beliefs of just getting it done. And I think, work on it every day to think I'm capable of more and more and more. And just being confident in what you're selling or what you're delivering and knowing that, it is the best. And what I have and everything that I'm doing, I do believe it's superior to anything else on the market. So to remind myself is, I have this has already helped thousands and thousands of people. Even last night at the dinner, or actually the VIP party, and some member of my credit stacking group rolled up to me and he was just so excited to meet me. And I was so excited to meet him. And he was telling the story to these other people in the circle, and I pulled out my phone and I was starting to record him. And he's like, dude, Jack has helped me get like $150,000. I put this into my e-commerce business. That grew. Then I had money for my real estate business. That grew. And now I'm living this amazing life. And so like to remind myself of the impact that I'm having and to think that I can continue to have this impact on other people will help, get rid of those limiting beliefs.
Totally. And you mentioned something really quick about just believing in what you've already done for people. And then that's why it makes it so much easier to sell, right? Something that I tell like our salespeople all the time is, if you don't have unwavering belief and conviction in your product or service that's actually helping people, then you should quit right now and go work somewhere else. Because when you have that conviction, it truly just like oozes from you. Like you are so certain. That's why Ryan's able to pitch from stage. That's why like I'm able to talk about it, because like I've seen what it's done for my life. I've seen what it's done for other people's lives. And when you have that true belief, it makes it so much easier to sell, to bring clients on, because everyone thinks sales gets kind of like a bad rep because you have these people who aren't convicted or who don't believe in their products and they're still selling it anyway. So man, I think that's super important for anything that you do in life, is like you have to have true belief and true conviction in whatever it is, right? And so I think that's major. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I think when you have a good service that is impacting people in a positive way, it's your obligation to get them into your program or service, or you're buying your product because it's going to help their life. And so you're doing them a disservice on not relaying the value and getting them involved if it's going to help them.
Totally. That's what we say too. Yeah. It's like, dude, like if you don't join, it's not going to change my life. I don't need your whatever you're paying for our programs. Like it's going to change your life. And that's the conversation that we typically have. But why not just scale with salespeople right now? I know you got 2. So what's blocking you guys from just like, hey, let's hire 10?
It's a good question. It's probably just a limiting belief, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, because that's how we were too, by the way. Like that's the reason why I'm asking that. For the last probably about year, we stayed pretty steady at the salespeople that we had. We had, I think, 8 or so we had 4 closers, 4 setters, and we had like 1 person on this event sales team. And at the time we were like having some of our closers sell some of our tickets to the event, or like we would like just figure a few things out here and there, but we never had like a set team. And we really sat down and we were like, why the heck aren't we just like throwing gas in the fire? Like our cost per lead's good. Our team closes at a decent rate. Like, what are we doing? And so then
what is a decent rate? What's a decent close rate? What's a decent show up rate?
I can talk about like the industry standards and kind of like where we're at. And it's fluctuated, right? We've had months where we were at like a 40 to 30% close rate. Show rate, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Right. That's not good. This month was actually one of our better months. So we're sitting right around like 65%. I don't ever see it like getting above 70 in our space. So we're like technically B2B, but it's more so business to consumer, right? It's like a lot of these people who are solopreneurs or who want to get into real estate or who want to start building their content. And actually I'll split it really quick. With our content creation programs, especially when we were doing Pineda Media, which is like our agency services, these guys are established. We're charging like 25 grand for 6 months to like get in. And so it's a pricey program. So these guys already have businesses. That show rate was way better. That show rate was closer to like 70 to 80%, because these guys are like, business owners. They're punctual. They show up for stuff. It is what it is. Then we have people who are, they're just trying to get into real estate, or they're brand new. They don't have any business acumen. They might not show up for the call, right? So in your space or at our space, where these guys who aren't necessarily like super established quite yet, I'd guess probably 60% is like, if you're cruising at 60%, no one's gonna be mad. And what we do now is we double book our calendars. So we know that the best we can do is a 60% show rate. So we're going to have 2 appointments scheduled at that time. Yeah. We have an appointment manager who, like, let's say they both show up. Chances of that are pretty low, but if they do, then we have somebody who's going to come in and like manage that and book it with another closer. So that way we're just maximizing their time. That's
great.
Yeah. So I think that's huge. That's helped. We've done that the last like month and a half, and it's made a big impact.
Nice.
And then on the close side, I think you should be anywhere. It depends on like your process, right? Because I know you mentioned that you're going like direct to closer. So there's some more qualification there. I think anything like 20% should be the benchmark across the board. That's what I saw when I was like doing tech sales.
20%, sorry to cut you off, 20% of who shows up to the call or on the calendar.
20% of who shows up to the call. Because on the calendar, you can't control that. Obviously, there are things that you can do with like automated texts, automated emails, all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's minimum 20% no matter what. And then from there, it depends on your qualification process and stuff like that. I've had some closers do months where they're at 40%, but like my top guy, he hovers right around 30%. That's kind of our North Star. But again, there is still some qualification in our process too, because some people can book direct to our calendars. Sometimes people lie on the application, whatever. So that does drop his rate.
Okay. That makes sense. And so you said something super valuable to me last night, and that was about, if someone's going through, if you have a product or service that has, a good bit of qualifications, and someone's going through that call application and they seem, if it's truthful answers and they seem super qualified, it goes direct to closer.
Yep.
And if some of the answers are like, this guy might not be qualified, as qualified, at that point, then it would go to a setter. That's something we're not doing. And that was
a good tip. So like the way that model works, and this is the same for almost all businesses. For example, if you're buying software, typically they have like the lower version, then you have like the SMB or small to medium sized business version. So that's like, for example, we just bought payroll software. So we fit into like that 50 to 100 employee category. Okay. And so we got set up with the SMB closer. Right. And then you got the enterprise people, you got like the Googles, the Facebooks of the world. And then that goes to like a higher ticket person. Right. So like even like big software companies do it. And then on our end, so we do it based on an app. So based on however you answer your questions. So for example, again, I mean, for anyone who wants to book a call, like you're going to go through this process. But it's you based on like, hey, how much capital do you have to invest? How soon do you want to move forward? And I think like one other question based on those things, if you answer like the highest tier on all of them, then you're going straight to our closer and you go into our top guy. Right. And then we have like the ones that are up for everybody, and then the things that our SDRs qualify for.
Okay.
And like I mentioned earlier, it does fluctuate depending on our lead flow. Lately, our lead flow has gotten a lot more predictable because we're just like spending on ads and stuff like that. Previously, I would either throttle or pick it up based on how many leads are coming in. So like I was like, okay, like the calendars are light. Less things are going to the SDRs, everything's going to the closers, right? And then when they get too full, we throttle it up. So it kind of varies.
Got it.
Yeah, nice. Man. It's cool. It's a process. It's exciting. Like I mentioned, now we have a full-on event team. So we have like 8 people on that side now. We're probably going to try to scale up to 12 because we're going all in on events. You mentioned you're doing your next event, right?
Yeah, first event's next week in Scottsdale. About 30 people coming out for it. It's a high ticket event, and I'm super excited for it. I have 8 different speakers coming. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to come to this event, just put myself in the live event energy and, watch you guys throw down. I've heard such great things about these types of events with you guys, and nice. I needed to get involved.
Yeah. I mean, we're super bullish on events. Like we are all in just because we know that people like the community aspect. Like I think one thing that we've done really well also, people like Pace, they have like this very tight-knit community. And the only way you are able to continue to do that is just by throwing events, and like people make connections, people make friends, and then they're like, you know, they don't want to keep coming back. So that's something that we're really, really focused on. And I think
you have to do it in person. You have to meet people in person. It's such a different experience than just doing it virtually. And even a kind of side note on that topic is when I was coming back from a trip, I was in Bali for a little bit. Then on my way back, I popped into the Philippines before coming back to the States, and I met my virtual assistant team in person.
That must have been cool.
Yeah, it was 7 of them. And I met them all for the first time. And it's just been completely different working with them now that I had that in-person experience with them. And so, you know, similar to, you know, in the business space, like there's the virtual connection, but it is so much more cemented in once you see someone in person, have those conversations, et cetera. So I think it's super important.
Absolutely. And that's part of the also other reason why we're building like in-office culture. Like we talked about like closers yesterday, and they're great. Love that they do the whole remote thing, but we're really trying to bring everybody in office because, like you mentioned, it's just community, and it's people get it's way easier to be bought in, right? A lot of these high ticket closers that are coming around, they're just bouncing around from offer to offer to offer, hoping to find one thing that sticks, right? And I get it. It's cool. Like if I was in their shoes, I probably would be doing the same thing. I'm just trying to find the best thing for me and the best thing that I can sell and the best. So like, nothing against them. But also like when you have people in person, they're just way more bought in. And this is we do 12-hour days here, right? With our sales team. And so it's tough. Like if I'm trying to convince a high ticket closer to come out here, do all this work, and obviously they're going to make money and they're going to do well, but like it's way easier when people are here and like they get why we're doing it.
Totally.
So yeah, man. So tell me, like, team wise, are you pretty stable with where you're at, or are you guys going to try to scale up a little bit more? Like, do you know how many people it requires to like do one of these done for you things? And then do you need more people as you continue to grow, or
teammates?
Yeah.
The back end's pretty good for sure. Okay. Because it's so systematized. Hundreds of templates, you know, SOPs are incredible, and to hire another virtual assistant,
it's like nothing.
The cost of that is so insignificant relative to margins. And so once you have the foundation, the systems, like the whole foundation on the back end, then it becomes much easier to scale up on the front end. If your, you know, cost per acquisition on the ads is working out, then really the only bottleneck is just hiring and training more sales reps at that point. And so that's really the next step.
Yeah. One thing that I was just thinking about is like how easy it is to start a business these days with the virtual talent, because the cost to the barrier to entry is so low and they're so talented.
It would be so much more difficult to be profitable. And you would have to charge more money.
Yeah.
Like they are such a blessing. Incredible. Like I think so many more American entrepreneurs should be taking advantage of virtual assistants, specifically from the Philippines. My brother has a virtual personal assistant from Costa Rica. She lives in Mexico, and she's brilliant, like brilliant, a good deal. And it's just a huge mutual win-win. She's getting paid X amount. She's super grateful for it. It's not that much relative in American, you know, reference, but it's just incredible. To outsource that type of talent is I highly recommend it.
100%. Like same thing. I have a Egyptian virtual assistant.
Cool.
And she makes $8 an hour. Like, which is kind of high on the virtual assistant spectrum.
I'd pay something similar to it.
But dude, so smart, so talented, way better at Excel than me. Like it's amazing the type of talent that's available, and the world's just getting more global. So you are truly missing out as an American entrepreneur if you are not utilizing virtual assistants.
Could not agree more. Yeah. You know, I pay some Americans to do some phone support, and I'm really just paying for that American accent.
Totally.
Like, I'm paying X amount. I'm paying more for the American for basically less quality of work, but she sounds like an American on the phone.
Exactly. Which is crazy.
That's what I'm paying for.
That's the other thing too. The quality of work is truly better than like they work harder. They are in some cases smarter than their American counterpart, way less entitled. I have nothing but good things to say about
something I just thought of. I think if people now I know it's like the level of quality of work is higher with virtual assistants. And I know some people, when they get encountered with VAs on a business, they're like, where are you from? Like, whoa, you're not in America. This is kind of sketch.
Yeah.
But realistically, like in most businesses, the VAs depending on the situation, but the VAs can be so talented and provide such high quality work. Sometimes it's actually better to be talking direct to the VA than it is the American.
I would agree 100%. And you got to think about it too. All of these, to come full circle, American Express, all of these places, they're all using VAs essentially. They just have giant call centers or data centers. I actually don't even think they have data centers. They probably have same thing, Filipinos on their laptops just managing support. It's so if they're going to do it, you definitely should do it as an entrepreneur because it's
where do you find your VAs?
I have a couple different places. So I have like a recruiting company who I've worked with in the past, way back in the day when I was doing real estate, like wholesaling houses and all that. Before I like worked for Ryan, I was just in the coaching program. I got them from Facebook groups.
Okay.
So there was like a virtual Filipino Facebook group stuff. And I would be like, hey, I'm hiring for these roles, whatever. So I did that for a while. And then those are the two main places. And then every now and then I have like the VAs are also getting better about reaching out to me now. So I still get people like, hey, like I want to work for you. Like I love what Ryan's doing. And then obviously you got to like the video editors and stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What are online jobs PH? Onlinejobs.ph, I think it is.
Ooh, okay. So, and that's all like just, can you post your job on there and you get applicants or what does that look like?
Yeah. Honestly, my brother does all the hiring, but I believe it's similar to like an Upwork situation. It's a marketplace where you can find online talent. And I think it's onlinejobs.ph.
Okay.
I believe.
Nice. That's good value.
I recommend that if you're looking for VAs.
And so like, as far as your personal growth journey, like were there any books or is there like any author / speaker that you really attribute a lot of your success to?
Dude, I think Think and Grow Rich, that is an absolute staple. Like when you look at the Bible and religion and Christianity, I think Think and Grow Rich and business, I think it's the Bible for business. Like it is so spot on. And to think that the book was written, when it was written?
Like 100 years ago, if not more.
100 years ago. It's crazy. And it was like so spot on. I try to read it at least once a year. Like
really?
Not more than once.
That's good.
But once a year, I try to read it. And I really think that every entrepreneur should also consistently read that book. And then, in high school, I hated reading because they'd make you read these stupid, in my opinion, stupid fiction books that I didn't give a shit about. And, once I started reading business books after college, I was like, damn, like reading is so powerful. And I think another book that really helped from early 20s was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think those two books are such staples that should be mandatory to read in high school and or college. I
would agree 100%. And those are the two books. Like I read those actually, I think like when I was 17 or 18, that was my first like glimpse into the entrepreneurship world. And totally changed my life.
And they're so fundamental, but so powerful.
Agreed.
And I think
it's like, it's just baseline knowledge that every entrepreneur should know. And that's like what I have like all of our sales guys go through too. I'm like, at least How to Win Friends and Influence People. Cause that one, like, I need to read it again. I haven't read it in like a long time, but those two were like the OGs for sure. So I love that.
Yeah.
And then,
but honestly, dude, in the business space, like Ryan's always been, or not always, but last few years had been a huge inspiration just to see like specifically on how fast he was able to scale so many businesses and to manage such a conglomerate of businesses in so many different industries. And I think it's really cool. I think I know how complex that is. And so, it's really cool to learn about, the things you've been saying about the operations, managing that many people, et cetera. But I think for some people, they try to start too many things at the same time. I had a conversation with Ryan, I think last year, and he's always like building one after each other. Like you can't build several at the same time. You kind of got to do, have stepping stones, make sure one's figured out first, automated, someone's in place to manage it effectively, et cetera. Then move to the second one.
100%.
Where some people are trying to do 3 things at once and none of them are really doing that good. Where realistically, if they just focus on one of those offers, they would be very profitable with that one offer. Then they can go to the second offer. And I do think if you focus on something for long enough, similar to compound interest, there's compound effort.
For sure.
And so like, I've been in the funding space for
skills.
Several years, compound skills. Yeah. And so, for me, I feel like right now I have so much momentum in everything that I'm doing regarding business in the funding space because I've been doing it for several years. And I'm really feeling that compounding effort. And I think, at first people kind of got to dip their toes and figure out what's going to stick, but you can't do that for forever. You got to pick something and at least give it like a few solid years at least, and then really catch that compound interest, compound effort, compound skills.
I agree 100%. And one thing that, yeah, like you said, they think that Ryan's built all these different things all at once. But in reality, like he built one house flipping business for, I think, 7 years before then getting into coaching and education. And then that just kind of grew organically for a long time. And then slowly at all the skills that we learned from the coaching business, then translated to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. So like, it's not, as far as like speed goes, like it's not something that, it seems like it's an overnight success, but everything that we've learned from all the other businesses, now we can apply the same frameworks to the new thing. So for example, every time we launch a new business or a new coaching offer, it's the same exact framework that we had for the last one. Or then all the things that we learned from these events, we were able to apply to anything else that we do. Now we do these little workshops and whatever. So yeah, like you said, it's compound, like to me, it's skills as well, because like the same skills that we learned building the first business, now we can apply to the next one. The problem, like you mentioned, are people, you know, they do drop shipping, then they do Turo, then they do some other thing.
It's completely different.
Yeah, and they're all different.
The skill sets aren't overlapping.
Yeah, and they're trying to do all of it at once. You haven't built one profitable business. What makes you think you'd be able to build 3? Right? Like you're going to do everything at a C+. Like you got to focus on one thing, get an A in it first, and then you can go to the next thing. 100%.
Agreed. And I also think it's a huge reminder to people to really embrace failure. You have to fail your way to success. And anytime I'm put in a hard position or I'm messing something up, make a mistake, I am so grateful for even that mistake, because now I've learned, I had a valuable learning lesson, and now I know how to do it correctly, or at least not do it incorrectly the way I made the mistake on. And I'm just always grateful for good scenarios or bad scenarios, because it all leads in a positive direction as long as you're consistent, and just making mistakes is so crucial. And I think people are so cautious and they don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to take the risk. And really the biggest risk is staying in the same place for several years. Like you might get short-term embarrassed of some sort of mistake, but if you keep making those mistakes and learning from those mistakes, because I think you only lose if you don't learn. Like, okay, you lost some money, some money here, you burn this relationship. Okay, you only lose if you didn't learn. Like, I agree. You know, God wanted you to go through those experiences and understand that lesson. So by the time you're in that similar position again, you're not going to make that mistake. And
yeah, I think that's huge. Yeah. So we are almost at time, but you know, if there was one thing that you like, let's say you left the earth tomorrow and you want people to know, what would it be? I
want people to know that there is an incredible life out there. And if you are someone that's stuck in a 9-to-5 job and you don't like what you're doing, I encourage you to take the risk. Go put yourself in uncomfortable scenarios, like going to events. It's not easy to network. I showed up last night. I didn't know anyone. And, you know, I started chatting people up, but at first it's uncomfortable. But put yourself in the environment of like where you want to grow. If you want to get into business, go to business events. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but go do those things. Like if you don't like your job, and a lot of people don't like their job, like there are options. Just know there's options. There's flexibility. There's more resources now to be successful as an entrepreneur than there ever has before, by far. There's so much free online education. You can go get free, you can borrow money for free from the banks with what I teach. And I don't think it could be easier to be successful as an entrepreneur. And so I encourage people to take the risk, to learn things, to try in business, at least as a side hustle. Then, you know, once it's making a little bit more money, consider quitting the job and focusing on full time. I do think entrepreneurship and just being a successful business owner is the hardest thing. But what is more difficult is doing that on the front end, or potentially regretting never taking the risk. If you have a job, but the worst case happens, you'll lose the job. And you can probably always get the job back or get a similar job back in the future. And so I really encourage people to take the risk. Life is short. Like, dude, years are flying. And I think the older you get, I'm 30. I think the older you get, the years just feel faster and faster and faster. By the time you know it, you know, more responsibility, you're getting kids, you're married. It's going to be harder and harder to take those risks. So I don't think you're ever ready. There's no perfect time to start anything. You know, a lot of people talk about there's no perfect time. You have to start today and take immediate action and consistent action. And I do think so many people are qualified for such an amazing life of financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom. And I think if you surround yourself by the right people that you can learn from, network with, and execute with, I think it's all possible. And I don't think an excuse of not having the money to start a business is realistic, because I'll very efficiently show someone how to borrow a ton of money from the bank that they can start or scale businesses with. And so many people have come to me. I help them get the money. They start a business. They're successful with it, and they're able to quit their corporate job that they hated. So there's always a way out. And I encourage people to take the risk and to chase their dreams.
That was like 10 nuggets in one. That was so good. Cool, Jack. We'll drop your links and stuff in the bio, but where can people?
Jack McColl, MCCOLL. Website, creditstacking.com, if you guys are interested to learn more about what we got going on. But yeah, follow me on Instagram, post some cool content there. Javi, thank you so much, man.
Dude, no worries.
Really great combo. Show.
Yeah, dude. Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Hope you got some good value from the show.
Peace.